Most German Shepherd owners are doing more right than they realize. The walks happen. The food gets measured. The vet appointments are on the calendar. The basics are covered, and the dog is loved. And from the outside, everything looks fine. But there is a category of ownership that sits between doing the basics and doing the thing that actually determines how long and how well this specific breed lives. It is not dramatic. It is not expensive. It does not require a professional trainer or a specialized facility or a complete overhaul of your daily routine. It is 7 habits. Daily ones. Small enough to fit into an ordinary life and significant enough that the difference between owners who practice them and owners who do not shows up, clearly and measurably, in the long-term health and behavioral stability of their dogs. I have worked with German Shepherds for a long time. Across that time, the dogs that age best, that stay mentally sharp longest, that move through their senior years with the most quality of life, almost always belong to owners who do these 7 things consistently. Not perfectly, not without missing days, but consistently enough that the habits become the baseline of the relationship rather than the exception. Let me tell you what they are. The first habit is structured daily exercise that accounts for both physical exertion and mental engagement within the same session. This sounds like 2 habits combined into one, and in a sense it is. But experienced German Shepherd owners learn quickly that separating the 2 produces worse results than integrating them. A German Shepherd that runs for an hour and then comes home to nothing mentally demanding is a German Shepherd that is physically tired and mentally still looking for something to do. The behavioral expression of that second kind of tiredness is not rest. It is restlessness, low-level anxiety, the kind of unfocused energy that redirects into barking, pacing, or destruction. The most effective daily exercise for this breed combines movement with decision-making. This can be as simple as varying the route on a daily walk and allowing extended sniffing time at novel locations, which activates the olfactory system in ways that produce genuine cognitive fatigue. It can include short training sequences during the walk itself, asking for a downstay beside a distraction, practicing loose-leash responses in new environments, or working on directional commands in open spaces. The goal is not to exhaust the dog, but to give the brain and the body something to work through together, which is how this breed was designed to function and what their nervous system responds to best. The second habit is a consistent feeding schedule with portion discipline. German Shepherds are prone to bloat, the common name for gastric dilatation volvulus, a life-threatening condition in which the stomach fills with gas and can rotate on its own axis. The condition is partially heritable, partially structural, and partially management-related, and the management side matters more than most owners realize. Feeding 2 measured meals per day at consistent times, avoiding exercise for at least an hour before and after eating, using a raised bowl only if specifically recommended by your veterinarian. Since the research on raised bowls and bloat risk is genuinely mixed, and managing food intake speed in dogs that eat rapidly, all of these are evidence-based practices that reduce risk in a breed that carries it. Beyond bloat prevention, portion discipline matters for joint health in ways that directly affect quality of life over the long term. German Shepherds are predisposed to hip dysplasia and elbow dysplasia, and the single most modifiable risk factor for how severely those conditions express themselves is body weight. A dog carrying even 10% more weight than their optimal condition places measurably increased stress on already vulnerable joints. The habit of measuring rather than estimating of maintaining a body condition where you can feel but not see the ribs, of resisting the generosity that comes naturally when you love an animal, is one of the highest impact health decisions you make for this breed every single day. The third habit is daily coat and skin inspection. Not grooming in the elaborate sense, though regular brushing matters for coat health and reduces the volume of fur you are managing throughout your house. What I mean specifically is hands-on contact with your dog's body that is systematic enough to catch changes early. German Shepherds are stoic animals. Their working heritage means they are inclined to continue functioning through discomfort that other breeds would signal clearly, which means the early signs of skin conditions, ear infections, developing lumps, joint sensitivity, or coat changes that indicate systemic health issues are often subtle enough to miss if you are not actively looking. Running your hands through your dog's coat daily, checking inside the ears for redness, odor, or unusual discharge, examining the paws for cuts, foreign bodies, or changes in the nail beds, and noting any areas where your dog flinches, pulls away, or holds unusual tension takes about 4 minutes. The number of times this habit has caught something early enough to make a meaningful difference in treatment options and outcomes makes it one of the most valuable 4 minutes in your relationship with this dog. The fourth habit is intentional socialization maintenance. There is a common misconception that socialization is a puppy phase that ends somewhere around 16 weeks and does not need to be actively managed after that. This is partially true in that the critical developmental window does close, but it misses something important about how German Shepherds specifically maintain their behavioral stability throughout their lives. This breed has strong protective instincts that require ongoing, positive exposure to a variety of people, environments, sounds, and situations to stay appropriately calibrated. A German Shepherd that was beautifully socialized as a puppy and then lived a relatively isolated life through adolescence and adulthood is not the same dog as one whose socialization was maintained. The practical version of this habit does not require major effort. It means regularly taking your dog to different environments rather than always the same park and the same route. It means controlled, positive interactions with unfamiliar people when the dog's body language indicates they are comfortable, rather than only when you are trying to socialize them, because they are reacting. It means exposure to the ordinary variety of the world, construction sounds, different surfaces, vehicles, crowds at a manageable distance, maintained throughout their life, rather than concentrated in the first 4 months, and then largely abandoned. The fifth habit is daily mental engagement outside of training. This is distinct from the training sequences I mentioned in the exercise section. What I am describing here is problem-solving time that is less structured and more dog-directed. Puzzle feeders are the most accessible version, but the category is broader than that. Scent work games, where you hide food or a specific object and allow the dog to use their nose to locate it, activate the olfactory system in ways that are deeply satisfying to this breed and produce a quality of tiredness that differs from physical exercise. Chew time with appropriate long-lasting chews engages the jaw and produces genuine calming neurological effects through the rhythmic action. Exploration time in a safely contained novel environment, even just a room in the house they do not usually access, gives the brain something to map and assess. The research on cognitive enrichment in domestic dogs is relatively recent, but reasonably consistent in its findings. Dogs that receive regular mental engagement show lower baseline stress markers, reduced incidence of anxiety-based behavioral problems, and in aging dogs, slower cognitive decline. For German Shepherds specifically, whose intelligence is a structural feature of the breed, rather than incidental variation. The absence of mental engagement is not neutral. It has a cost, and that cost accumulates over time in the form of behavioral problems, anxiety, and a quality of restlessness that owners often misattribute to high energy when it is more accurately described as an underutilized mind. The sixth habit is proactive joint support, starting from early adulthood rather than waiting for symptoms. German Shepherds develop musculoskeletal issues at rates that should prompt preventive action well before any visible sign of discomfort. The conversation about joint supplementation, specifically omega-3 fatty acids from marine sources and glucosamine-chondroitin combinations, should happen with your veterinarian during the dog's second or third year rather than after a diagnosis at 7 or 8. The evidence base for these supplements varies, and they are not replacements for veterinary care. But the evidence for omega-3 fatty acids in particular, supporting joint tissue health and reducing inflammatory markers, is strong enough that most veterinary professionals who work frequently with large working breeds recommend them. Beyond supplementation, the physical practices that support joint health are within every owner's daily capacity. Avoiding repetitive high-impact activities on hard surfaces during the puppy phase when joints are still developing. Ensuring the dog wakes up and moves gently before intense exercise, rather than going from rest to full activity immediately. Providing orthopedic sleeping surfaces, particularly as the dog reaches middle age. Monitoring the quality and symmetry of movement during walks, noticing any hesitation, stiffness after rest, or subtle changes in how the dog carries themselves, and reporting these to your veterinarian rather than attributing them to normal aging without investigation. The seventh habit is what I would describe as daily deliberate connection. This is perhaps the least clinical item on this list and the hardest to quantify, but it is the one that experienced owners and trainers return to most consistently when asked, what makes the difference in a German Shepherd's overall behavioral health and quality of life? German Shepherds do not do well in a relationship that is primarily functional. They are not content being fed, walked, and left to manage their own emotional life the rest of the time. They need genuine relational engagement, time that is not training and not exercise, and not any specific activity with an objective, but simply you being fully present with them. This is different from being in the same room. It is eye contact without an agenda. It is sitting on the floor and allowing contact that the dog initiates. It is conversation in whatever form you are comfortable with, because your voice, calm and warm and directed at them, is one of the most physiologically regulating inputs your German Shepherd receives. The research on cortisol levels in dogs confirms that regular calm interaction with their primary attachment figure produces measurable reductions in stress hormones. The research on canine loneliness is less well developed, but directionally consistent. Dogs that spend the majority of their day without meaningful human interaction show behavioral and physiological markers that suggest chronic low-grade stress. For German Shepherds, whose attachment to their person is not casual but structural, this daily connection is not optional enrichment. It is a health requirement. 7 habits, none of them extraordinary on their own. Together, they represent the difference between a German Shepherd that is maintained and one that is genuinely thriving. And in this breed, the gap between those two things is wide enough to be visible in how they move, how they age, and how fully they are able to be what they are designed to be for as long as possible. The question worth sitting with is not whether any of these are new to you. Most of them probably are not. The question is which ones have become genuine daily habits versus intentions you have but do not always follow through on. Pick the one that needs the most work, not all 7 at once. 1. Build it into the routine until it becomes as automatic as feeding, and then build the next one. Your German Shepherd will show you the difference before you have finished all 7. If this gave you something practical to act on, share it with another German Shepherd owner. Subscribe if you want to keep going this deep into what it actually takes to give this breed the life they deserve. Leave a comment telling me which of these 7 you are already doing well and which one you are going to start with. I read every single one, and the conversations in the comment section of this channel are some of the most honest and useful ones I have encountered about this breed anywhere.